Hey guys, Geeky Rocket here, and this will be update number 2 for the JagdTiger build. Not a whole lot has changed since the last update I did, which was a while back now, actually. Which it's progressing slower than I'd like to, but the ambition of going back and reworking things that need to be cleaned up and brought up to the standards that I try to build at now. It's been progressing at a very slow rate, but I am a perfectionist, so this build did need it, and that'll be the only way or only reason why I finish this is if it's at the best it can be. So enough about that. Again, nothing much has changed since the last update. But the two key things that I have done since then, other than removing seam lines that I should have removed while I was building this years ago, and filling certain areas that needed attention. But the two main areas are the Pioneer tools. I've got some of the towing cable clasps already glued in place, and then the Pioneer tools on this side have also been glued in place, as you can see there. Again, on this side I actually have the metal towing cable in place, and as you can see, some of it needs to be removed for it to fit properly, so better they give you more than less, so you can always remove and trim it, because adding more towing cable is near impossible. So I'm glad they did that. So again, Pioneer tools are all attached now. I elected to include them now before painting, because I think I'll be able to paint them pretty effectively, even though they're glued on the tank itself. And again here, towing clasps, as well as I believe, I'm not really too sure what that is. I don't know if that is part of for the maintenance of cleaning the gun barrel or not. But as you can see on both sides, actually, I have included filler on both sides. There was sink marks. I don't know why there were sink marks on this, because it's literally a cylindrical, so the sink mark was a huge eyesore and had to be filled in and dealt with, which was a little tricky to sand, but it came out all right. What else have I added? Oh, I've added again some more accessories that the tank would have had for equipment wise and whatnot. The jack block, and that is actually gets attached to these clasps for the towing cable, so I've attached that as well, which will all be painted or detail painted later on after the base coat and camouflage have been applied. What is left to do is clean up the lower hull now. The upper hull, I believe, is completely done. I've also glued the firing mechanism for the gun in place to a place where I like it. As you noticed before, it was slumped down, so now I've glued it in place, so the barrel it's actually a little above the horizontal line. So when I incorporate that into the diorama, it'll look in place. It'll look the way it should. And the final major modification that I have made is the removal of the fenders, and actually that took the longest. Not only time consuming in removing and cleaning it up, but I was scared to death of removing these things, just because if I mucked the removal of the fenders, the entire front of the tank would have been an eyesore. So I kind of worked myself up to it, and actually, I don't know how well the detail you'll be able to pick up on this, but the cleanup and the removal, come on, focus, was actually well done. So I'm very pleased with how that's come out. And again, I have left 3 of these, I guess they're kind of like hinges, where where that fender or the front fender would have been attached, because these hinges would have been welded actually to the front of the hull, so those had to stay. But were all molded together with the rest of the assembly. So what I did was I sawed off the front fenders, which I had to then go back and sand down heavily until I reached the front of the upper hull here. And then with this, I guess you could call it like almost like a micro sander, and this bailed me out and helped me hugely. So I highly recommend these mini filers. Worked brilliantly, and it was very, very accurate and very precise in where I sanded. So that worked brilliantly. Can't recommend that stuff enough. Actually, I think I have these set here. I'm not sure what the manufacturer is, but again, it comes with it actually comes with, I think, 12 pieces. Yeah, 12 pieces. So it's a mini filing set. Great thing to have. I think I picked that up on Sprue Brothers. Not too expensive either. So highly recommended for this sort of application when building models. But after I had removed these fenders, what was revealed were some sink marks that I did not notice on the lower hull. So when I start to prep this for painting, I'll be removing the wheels, drive sprockets, and idler wheels, as well as the tracks for ease of painting. And before the upper hull and lower hull are not glued together yet, so when I do finally glue those two pieces together, or those two halves together, I will make a point to go and fill in those sinkholes right there, and they're on both sides. So I'll have to complete that before painting. And I think I removed or sanded down too much when the front fenders were being removed, and you can kind of see a gap in between this bulkhead here and the front plate. There's a little bit of a gap, and I looked on reference images, and that is not there. So I will have to go and fill that too. And oh, actually, I almost forgot one last thing. One last modification that I made, or kind of went back for, and I don't know how well you're going to see this once I get this positioned correctly. Okay, yeah, you might not really see that. Oh, there you go. Okay, well, basically what I'm showing you right there is, I'm not sure what the side skirts or metal fenders were made out of, whether it was aluminum or steel, but these channels here that attached or would have secured or kept both or more than one side plate in place would have been made of a thinner gauge steel or aluminum, depending on what it was. I'm not really sure what it was. So I went back, and again, with my trusty mini filer, I filed that down to the best I could do for a 90-degree surface. So it's very, very precise, and I kind of just sanded down where the missing side skirt would have been, and would have been attached to, or sitting in place, being positioned correctly by this channel, so that it's in scale thickness, and then left the remaining plastic, which is comprised up of this fender here, thicker, just to give it an in scale effect, differing both components from each other. So that's what I've done. I've done that on these two edges, and this actually does not have, actually you can probably see here where that channel would have sat in place, and see kind of where it dips and grooves in. So that's what I tried to simulate on the missing sides, or where the missing fenders would have been. So that came out great too. I was very pleased, and very satisfied where that is at. So that's it for with where the tank's at. I also removed this piece here, which is just a gun traveling lock assembly for ease of doing the camouflage. And like I said, there's a few more pieces to put in place when the upper and lower hull have been glued together, and I'll be able to work from there. So that's where the tank's at, and I was actually able to get a lot of the figures done as well. Actually, I completely assembled all the figures, with the exception of their equipment and arms and helmet. But the figures turned out very well. Very, very pleased with the way these dragon figures turned out. The only issue I had with these figures was for the guys with the trench coats anyways. There were a lot of big gaps, which had to be filled and then sanded. So this guy actually is the guy with just the field gray trench coat, no camouflage. This next figure looks like a raincoat or a winter jacket with his snow pants or winter pants, camouflage pants. This guy actually needed minimum, very little cleanup, as well as filling and sanding. So this guy came out really well. This guy is half camouflage. His winter jacket on top is going to be in camo. Oops, let's get this in focus. There we go. And then the field gray trench coat will be exposed, but this guy required a lot of sanding in the rear, as well as some sanding along the trench coat area near the bottom. But all in all, came out very well. Very nice detail, great detail all around. And again, this is the final figure, which will also be... Oh, come on, let's focus. Focus. No. There we go. Okay, so this is the final figure. Again, camouflage trousers and jacket, and very minimal filling and sanding required on this guy too. So that's where I'm at with the figures. Basically, what I am trying to decide is whether to just load him up with all his equipment now before painting, and then go ahead, spray him, do the camouflage, and then detail paint afterwards, or whether to have him as is, like I have him right now, go ahead and paint, and then add the painted details on later. The only thing is, with these with his equipment that I found, and I found this on almost virtually all the figures, was the attachment points there's a lot of spaces and gaps in between where the equipment should be nestled against their bodies. So I may have to modify their torsos, like where the jackets are, and even where their trousers are. I may have to modify, sand down. So I think what I'm going to do is mock them up with blue tack, just stick all their arms on and everything, get all the equipment on. And if there's a lot of sanding required to make these parts fit properly, I think I'll leave them off for now. Sand everything, glue them on, and then paint it all together with the detail or with their equipment assembled, instead of trying to go ahead, paint them now, and then finding I have to sand, fill, or whatnot. So I think I'm going to attach as much of the equipment as I can, making any necessary modifications to the figures so that everything looks proper and as it should. So that's going to be the next step for the figures for this diorama. And having said all of that, I know I've been rambling on a long time now, but what's going to be coming up in the next couple weeks, I guess, is what I want to do before disassembling the tank for painting is get a solid layout figured out for the diorama itself. So I'm going to do that hopefully this weekend. cut out the diorama from styrofoam and fit everything on to where it should be before disassembling. And that should be it. That should be, well, for the near future anyways. That'll be the plan. And then I can start getting on with the paint. And actually, I have picked up AK stuff. I've never used the AK acrylic paints before. So I picked up their Surfer Primer Gray, as well as Track Primer, and as well as Red Primer Base, which would have been visible where the skirts are removed. So I'm going to try to simulate that, as well as the chipping fluid. I'm going to try using the hairspray technique when it comes to weathering this vehicle. And I'm not too sure how AK acrylics weather or chip with their fluid. I know Tamiya paints work brilliantly with the hairspray technique or the chipping fluid technique. I've already used it with Tamiya paints and have gotten great results. So I may do a demo on trying out the hairspray technique with the AK acrylics, just to kind of test it out before I commit to spraying the entire vehicle with these acrylics. And also, now that this has been percolating in my head for quite a while, I think I'm going to go ahead and use the 653rd Division, Panzerjäger Division. This right here, this paint scheme. But because it's going to be set in the winter time, I think I'm going to go ahead afterwards, after this camo's been applied, and try to actually do a whitewash, which I wasn't planning on doing originally, but I think it makes sense for the period and the scene that I'm going to set when I place the tank on the dial. So I think that's the only thing that's going to make sense for this time period, as well as where I want to what I want to do for the diorama, which is have it in snow. And that's about it. That'll be about it for this update. I know it's long. Sorry about that, guys, but it's been a while since I did an update for this vehicle. Been going in between both the Flak 88 and this, and just this has kind of been a hindrance and hampered my ambition a little bit, just because I can't stand going back and redoing things. I want to do things right the first time and be done with it, but this is actually shaping up really nice. I'm really satisfied with where it's at so far, so hopefully the painting goes on without a hitch as well. And I'll talk to you guys soon, hopefully soon. So as for that, happy modeling, guys. Take care, and cheers. Thanks for watching.